Thank you, Acting President. I want to be brief, but I'm not sure that I can be. I wanted the state of emergency to be brief. I wanted Victorians to be free again. But the Premier is determined to ensure we are all kept in a permanent state of panic. He wants to keep us in constant fear by ensuring the state of emergency is part of our daily lives. Just like Ivan Pavlov with his dogs, Daniel Andrews is conditioning Victorians to feel fear by keeping the phrase state of emergency in our everyday lexicon. We wear masks when we walk around in crowds. We wait with bated breath for the daily update on how many new cases have been recorded and sigh with relief when the numbers remain low. Many Victorians have come to view the Premier as a saviour, the only person who's keeping us safe from the hyper-infectious, hyper-intelligent, hyperbolic virus. He can do no wrong. We must do what he says. We aren't safe without him. We are cowering in fear, and only the Andrews government can save us. But those sentiments are not proof the Premier is doing the right thing, not proof that this government is managing well. They are proof that we've all become conditioned. And the state of emergency is the primary tool of oppression. I went to a dictionary, and by dictionary I mean the internet, to find a definition of the word emergency. An emergency is an unforeseen combination of circumstances, or the resulting state, that calls for immediate action. So let's roll that concept around in our overworked brains for a little while. What strikes you about it? Unforeseen combination of circumstances is the part that strikes me square between the eyes. By this stage, there's absolutely nothing unforeseen about this virus. There used to be. Around this time last year, a state of emergency might almost have been justifiable, depending on how the powers were going to be used. COVID-19 came almost out of nowhere, and the entire planet had to act fast. We locked down in our homes, we doused ourselves in hand wash, bolted masks to our faces, and started creating sizable pyramids of outer toilet rolls. That was a year ago. So much has happened since, in what was, while falling well short of the mark of being one of the most significant years in human history, as some people have suggested, at least one of the most significant years of this century so far. Almost all of us were glad to see the back of 2020. 2021 was viewed by many as a chance for redemption, to allow hope to become anticipation. The start of the vaccination program, the images we've been seeing of the first Australians to get the jab in the last couple of weeks, have been for many the start of the post-COVID era. I'm not so naive as to think we're on the last victory lap, and no doubt there are more twists in this tale. But what I do believe is that the emergency has long since passed. It is entirely wrong for this government to be seeking to keep us in fear, to maintain the response conditioning. The record shows that I have long advocated for a more nuanced and delicate approach to virus containment. If there is one thing that has become obvious over the past 12 months, it is that this government cannot be trusted with these emergency powers. Regional Victorians have, for no reason whatsoever, been subjected to danger, abuse, bullying and insult from the Premier. He's made it his business to ensure that, while many others in Australia have been enjoying increasing freedoms, all Victorians must be kept in his yoke of tyranny equally. At 0 cases in the regions, we were pushed to stage 3. At 0 cases, we were forced to wear masks. At 0 cases, we were split by border closures. And at 0 cases, we endured a zero-notice, 5-day lockdown. It was easier, we were told, to lock down the entire state than just Melbourne. Imagine how delighted all the communities in the regions were at that. The third lockdown, only a couple of weeks ago, imposed on the whole state, is all the evidence anyone here should need not to support this bill. Let me be entirely clear. I don't trust you with these powers. I don't think you know the meaning of proportionate or minimum necessary. Perhaps you need to be the ones consulting the dictionary. I don't think you understand human rights. You certainly don't care about them. We asked the Premier if we could see the evidence he was relying on to justify this behaviour. He told us all the evidence is secret information that we're not allowed to see. We asked to see the human rights impact statements, and we were told those are secret too. Secret evidence is as good as no evidence at all. When we asked the Chief Health Officer about restrictions for which we know there was insufficient evidence, the CHO turned to the precautionary principle. He said that we must turn towards the use of force as a precaution. Just to be safe, we should deprive Victorians of their liberty. To be safe. With a straight face, we were told that Victorians were subject to a guaranteed and severe harm as a precaution against potential harm. If we are going to use the precautionary principle, then we should be taking precautions to prevent harm caused by this government when using these emergency powers. We should withhold these emergency powers as a precaution against authoritarian power and against the deprival of liberty. Voting against this bill is a precaution against this government, against the Premier and his unlimited power. We cannot risk another 9 months of unilateral lawmaking by the Andrews government, and there is very real and public evidence to back that claim. The Andrews government has repeatedly asserted that it's not possible to manage COVID-19 without the use of emergency powers. This is a lie. It's a fabrication. It is false. The government could present legislation that provides the necessary powers to deal with COVID-19 that would also include the necessary protections for human rights and liberty. The government does not need emergency powers to handle COVID-19. The Premier has instead delivered Victorians an ultimatum. He's telling us that we either give the Premier unchecked power or he will let COVID run through Victoria unchecked. The Premier is holding Victoria hostage and is using the threat of an unmanaged pandemic as a leverage to secure more power. The choice is not between state of emergency or nothing, it's between emergency and management of the virus as business as usual. The government is hiding behind the state of emergency, hiding evidence, hiding responsibility for the decisions. Any MPs who support this legislation are betraying Victorians. It will do no good to claim you stand for the rights of the disadvantaged, the downtrodden, those who cannot speak up for themselves, when you are the ones enabling the boot pressing on their necks. The Liberal Democrats oppose this bill.